Good morning, boys and girls. It's another sunny morning. It's Tuesday, and we're ready to start Chapter 8. It's called Following and Moving On. Marty the Fisher had been as surprised as Ereth when the fox's call came out of the woods. He looked from Ereth to the woods, from the woods to Ereth, wondering what he should do. Of course, Ereth had made the decision for him. When the porcupine broke away from the cabin and went lumbering through the snow toward the sound of the cold, a puzzled Marty followed from a safe distance. Then he saw Ereth disappear behind a mound of snow and heard low voices. Alarmed, he swiftly, silently called up a tree and out along a branch, then looked down. When he saw the trapped fox, he was so startled he almost fell out of the tree. As the fox and Ereth talked, Marty watched. He could not hear what they were saying. Then the fox slumped down and the porcupine backed away. The next moment, Ereth hurried off. Staring at the scene below, Marty was filled with anger. The fox was dead. He knew who she was, too. Leaper. He knew of her kits and her husband. Humans, the fisher hissed with fury. Then he saw where Ereth had gone, and his anger redoubled. Look at him. He thinks he's beyond all that. Just runs off, this self-centered good-for-nothing. More than ever, Marty resolved to catch the porcupine. Most likely I'm only going to get one chance, he reminded himself. It has to be right. As long as he stays beneath the trees, I'll be fine. Be patient, Marty. Be very patient, he told himself as he resumed his stalking. Ereth plunged on through the thick, soft snow. She said they were kits, he mumbled to himself with disgust. 3 months old. Babies. Nothing but puke and poop. Poop and puke. Helpless, brainless, youthless. The only thing I hate more than children is babies. Babies, he sneered with contempt. Never could figure out why there were so many babies. They can't do anything. Right, he said, halting in his tracks. And that means I should forget the whole thing. Head back to the salt and for once, do something nice for myself. Then Ereth had a terrible thought. The traps. Hadn't the humans said they had staked out many of them? With so much snow, the traps could be invisible and odorless to him, as they had been to the fox. They could be anywhere. He could be caught. Engulfed by rising panic, he began to move forward again. But now, each step he took was a cautious one. Now and again he paused nervously to check over the trail he had made. It looked as if someone had dragged a bulky bag through the snow. I could follow my own trail back, he told himself. Safe once, safe twice, he turned around. Except, he murmured, I suppose somebody needs to tell those kits what happened to their mother. If they come looking for her, they might get caught too. The thought was too ghastly for Ereth to contemplate. Besides, he told himself, if he did not tell the kits what happened, they might never know. Being stupid youngsters, they were liable to just sit there and wait for her to come back, doing nothing for themselves. they would starve to death. That's the way the young folks are, Ereth thought, always waiting for someone to give them a handout, even if the waiting kills them. He turned back around and continued in the direction of the fox den. Of course, his thoughts continued. If they did know what happened, I mean, if they had any brains, which isn't very likely, they could go out and find their father. That's what they should do. Let him take care of them. Wonder where the father is. Gone for a holiday, probably. Foxes are such idiots. But then, all meat eaters are jerks. Ereth groaned. All the incredible salt sitting there, and I could use some sleep. Once again, he looked back in the direction of the log cabin. For a second, he thought he saw what appeared to be a shadow moving high among the branches. It startled him. You're getting jumpy, he told himself. No, not jumpy, gilded carrot quotes, he swore. The truth is, I don't want to do what I promised to do. He rubbed his nose and sniffed. Then again, I suppose it won't hurt me to drop by and tell those kits what happened. The salt isn't gonna walk away, and maybe I could sleep in their den, long as it doesn't stink of meat, then get back to the salt in the morning. Now, where did she say those kits were? The porcupine wondered out loud as he peered around. About a mile east from where I found her, in a low bluff behind some rocks. A blue rock. Oh, boiled badger boogers, he growled in exasperation. I hate this. He studied the scene before him. With everything buried in snow, it was hard to distinguish anything. Rocks, boulders, bushes must less determine where he was. Coming out from the woods, Ereth found an open field stretching before him. Blanketed in snow, it lay in perfect stillness. The new snow, untouched, untrod upon, appeared to have been there since time began. Moonlight gave it a radiant glow. At the far end of the field was a bluff. It rose up sharply, as if half a hill had simply dropped away. Peering at it, Ereth could see the lumpy outline of rocks and boulders beneath the snow. Chipmunk tail squeezers, Ereth said. I bet that's where her den is. It fit the fox's description and seemed logical. Anyone approaching the den from across the field would be seen from a safe distance. And it wasn't likely anyone to drop down to the den from the top of the bluff. It was too steep. Excuse me. I think sitting outside's making me sneeze. But how am I, in the middle of the night, supposed to find a blue boulder that's buried in the snow? With a snarl that was half anger, half weariness, Ereth moved out across the field. Suddenly he stopped. Goat Gaskins and maggot mango, he cried. What am I supposed to say to those kits? The thought of it made him groan out loud. Tell it to them straight, he told himself. Right off, they'll have to face the mucus sometime or other. It's a rough world. No sentimental slip-slop for me. I'll say, hello. Guess what? Here's the news. Your mother's dead. No supplemental. Go find your father. Goodbye. Yep, that's the way it's gonna be. If they don't like it, they can eat my quills. Grimly determined, Ereth continued to push forward. As he went, he kept practicing his speech. Hello, guess what? Here's the news. Your mother. It took him a while to reach the base of the bluff. Once there, he halted and searched for some clue that might tell him where the fox's den was. But now that he was close, he could see that there were many boulders embedded in the bluff. Every one was jagged and irregular. In the best of weather, the den's entryway would be masked. Now it was further hidden by snow. Lazy lizard lips, Ereth complained bitterly. If those kits are deep inside some den, I'll never find them. More weary than ever, the porcupine waddled along the base of the bluff in search of some meaningful sign. Suddenly he heard a single yelp. It seemed to come from within the bluff itself. Ereth had no doubt it was one of the kits. He was close. He held his breath in the hope that the sound would be repeated. Though it took some time, Ereth was shivering. By now, it came. This time the yelp was behind him. With a grunt of exasperation, the old porcupine wheeled about, trying to determine the exact location of the sound. Once again, there was only silence. Bat bilge, the porcupine muttered angrily. Since I'm spending so much time looking for them, at least they could be helpful. He took another step and paused. From almost right over his head, he heard an explosion of yelps. He peered up the bluff to see a particularly jagged group of rocks. He began to move up. Upon reaching the first of the boulders, he scratched the snow away to expose the surface. The rock was dark, but in the moonlight it had a blue cast. Ereth had no doubt he was close to the den. But where was the entry? He crawled higher. Twice he slipped back and had to struggle to keep himself from tumbling all the way to the bottom. The more he looked, the more exasperated he became. There didn't seem to be an entry. If there was one, and there had to be, it was so cleverly hidden, he would never be able to find it. Sighing deeply, Ereth wondered what he should do. He was exhausted, angry. Wet worm water, he whispered between chattering teeth. Why did I ever agree to do this? Why did I ever leave home? Oh, Poppy, why did you abandon me? He took some deep breaths and shut his eyes. He had hardly done so when he had felt a sharp smack on his nose. Excuse me just a minute. I have to stop. Okay, let's find out what smacked him on the nose. Chapter 9, Ereth Speaks. Hello, Porky. You looking for someone? Yelped a high-pitched voice. Ereth opened his eyes. A young female fox, head cocked to one side, was looking at him quizzically with bright orange eyes. Her fur was fuzzy red, her muzzle white. Her ears were too large for her young head. Her front paws seemed oversized too, while the dark fur that covered them made it appear as if she were wearing baggy knee socks. Ereth blinked. Sparrow Spittle, he sputtered. What did you call me? Porky, the fox said cheerfully. Isn't that what you are? A porcupine? My name is Ereth Dorsatin, Ereth returned with hot dignity. Are you a male or female? Male, Needle Nose. My name isn't Needle Nose, it's Nimble, returned the fox, and I'm a female. Do you live here? Oh, sure, Nimble returned. That's me and my brothers, Tumble and Flip. And then there's our mother. Her name is Leaper. Do you have a father? Silly, of course we do. His name is Bounder. I suppose that's him. Ereth muttered, even as it was perfectly clear that he had found the fox's den and her 3 kits. When we heard your coming, Nimble said, we thought you were Mom. Why? She's been away an awfully long time. Oh, right, Ereth said nervously. Bet you'll never guess what happened today, Nimble said. What? Some humans came by. They were walking around the field and the base of the bluff doing stuff. We don't know what. The trappers, Ereth thought with dread. What did you do, he asked. Nothing, hid like Mom told us to do. Don't worry, they never saw us. Ereth took a deep breath and said, guess what? What? Here's the news. But Ereth could not go on. Tongue-tied, he could only mutter, I'm not your mother. Oh, I know that, Nimble said, laughing. I may be young, but I'm not stupid. You don't look like her at all. I mean, she's very beautiful. And no offense, you're ugly. No way I'd confuse you with her. But by any chance, have you seen her? See, Mom went hunting this morning to get us some fresh food like she always does. Only, like I said, she hadn't been back for a very long while. We think it was this white stuff. You mean the snow? Ereth asked. Oh, is that what it's called? We never saw snow before. Why not? Because we were born only a couple of months ago, silly. Lungfish loogies, Ereth said. What did you say? I said lungfish loogies, Ereth barked. Nimble cocked her head to one side. Why did you say that? Because I wanted to, beanhead. The young fox stared, open-mouthed, at Ereth, trying to understand him. Oh, she said with a sudden grin. I get it. You're trying to be funny. Gallivanting glowworms, Ereth roared. I am not trying to be funny. I'm serious. The next instant, 2 more fox faces popped up behind Nimble and stared at Ereth. They looked very much like their sister, with red coats, white muzzles, ears much too big for their heads, and very large paws. Ereth could hardly tell them apart. When they looked at him, their faces showed disappointment. Who is that? One of them asked Nimble. That's Flip. Is a very funny old porcupine, Nimble said. His name is Earwig Doormat. It is not Earwig Doormat. It's Ereth Dorsatum, Nimble grinned. But doormat is easier to say. He smells nasty, the other young fox whispered to Nimble. Ereth assumed it was Tumble. Has he seen Mom? Flip asked. I asked him. What did he say? He didn't. Mr. Doormat, Flip said shyly, have you seen our mother? Look here, Brushtails, Ereth cried. The name is Ereth, not Doormat, and I've been out in the snow all day and night. I'm cold, I'm wet, I'm hungry. Do you think you could show me some manners and invite me into your den? Or don't foxes know how to be polite? Of course we do, Nimble said brightly. Mom taught us. I just didn't think you'd want to come on in and make yourself at home. With that, the three foxes whirled about and disappeared. Though it happened right before Ereth's eyes, he was not sure where they had gone. Where the frosted frog flip-flops are you? He screamed. Nimble tucked her head out from behind the boulder. Right here, Doormat. Stop calling me Doormat, demanded Ereth as he lumbered up to where the young fox, a saucy look on her face, was waiting. The name is Ereth. Parish? Ereth. Oh, okay, Nimble returned. Whatever you say, it's fine with me. Just watch your step. Ereth scrambled over a mound of snow, then poked his nose down into a hole. Out of it waffled a smell of rotting meat so strong he gagged. Are you coming? Flip called. Deciding he had no choice, Ereth yelled, Of course I'm coming. The porcupine lumbered down a steeply sloped tunnel, some 6 feet in length. At the bottom, it opened up into a large, roomy area. It was warm, but rank with the stench of old meat. As Ereth came into the den, the 3 young kits, lined up side by side, were sitting on their haunches, tongues lolling, heads cocked to one side, eyes bright and eager, staring at Ereth with curiosity. Trying hard to recall who was who, the porcupine looked around. In one corner, old leaves had been heaped together into a mound. Ereth assumed it was where the foxes slept. In another corner was a small pile of gnawed bones. From the look of them, Ereth guessed it was the remains of small animals, voles, mice, and the like. Meals. Ereth, who hated even the thought of eating meat, felt revulsion. Nimble said, I'm sorry we can't offer you any food. We've eaten everything. That's why Mom went out. But she'll be back any minute. Tumble insisted on his sulky way. She doesn't usually stay away so long, Flip offered. Which is okay, Nimble added, except we're pretty hungry. We think, she went on, with all this white stuff, it's called snow, she explained to the others, that covered everything. Mom probably had to go a long way. That's why she hasn't gotten back yet. What do you think? Flip asked Ereth in a quivering voice. Ereth hardly knew what to say. Twice he opened his mouth and tried to deliver his prepared speech, only to have the words stick in his throat. Are you trying to say something? Timble demanded. I was going to say giraffe gas. The young foxes looked at one another in puzzlement. What? Tumble asked. I said giraffe gas, Ereth shouted. For a moment, no one said a thing. Then Tumble demanded, Mr. Parrish, how come you're here? The name, the porcupine yelled, is Ereth. As for why I'm here, well, I like taking walks, that's why. Is that all? Snow? Flip cried. Do you have a problem with that, Dribble Nose? The foxes looked at one another again. Nimble giggled. Flip grinned shyly. Even Tumble thought he seemed more reserved and serious than the other two smiled. I guess not, Flip replied. Ereth shifted uncomfortably on his feet. Look here, he began, trying to find the courage to speak the truth. I've got something to say to you. Something really important. Oh, that's nice, Nimble said. We'd really like to hear it. What is it? It's, oh, sugared snail spit. I spoke to your mother. You did? What'd she say? Why hasn't she come home? The kids cried out. She won't be coming home, Ereth blurted out. The young foxes stared at him in bewilderment. Ereth swallowed hard. And that's because of what? Tumble asked sharply. Great gopher underpants, Ereth cried out. What makes you think I know? Because you just said you did, Nimble pointed out. Moth milk, Ereth sighed. He stared at the kids. They were gazing at him with rapt intention. Nimble had her mouth open, panting gently. There were lines of anger over Tumble's eyes. Flip's eyes were full of tears. The emotion was too much for Ereth. Snauer's snake sauce on spaghetti, he cried suddenly. Forget it. Whirling around, he scrambled for the entry tunnel. Mr. Parrish doormat, Flip called after him. Did something happen to Mom? Ereth stopped in his tracks. Slowly he turned back to face the young foxes. We need to know, Flip said. No, you don't, Ereth snapped. We do too, Tumble insisted. No, but why? Because, Ereth shouted with complete exasperation. Oh, fish feather fruitcake, because your mother is dead. That's why. And here's Ereth telling the three kids about their mother. Okay, that's our end of our chapters for the day. And let me see how long. I think we'll go ahead and read one more chapter because it's not very long. Chapter 10, Ereth and the Kids. The three young foxes gazed at Ereth with eyes full of disbelief. No one spoke. It was Flip who finally stammered. Would you please repeat that? Sorry, Ereth grumbled. I didn't mean to say it that way. Flustered, wishing he could be anywhere else in the world but where he was, he backed up a step. And I wouldn't have either if you hadn't have made me. I mean, I'm sorry, I am. His voice faded away. But Flip asked in a quivering cry, Did you say that Mom died? Yes. How do you know? It had nothing to do with me, Ereth said. I was an innocent bystander. Died, Nimble echoed, her voice rising tremendously. I said yes, didn't I? But how's that possible, Nimble wailed. Mom can't die. They're supposed to take care of us always. Ereth swallowed hard. There is this cabin with salt, and it's my birthday. Except that had nothing to do with it. Only because I was there, I heard her. She stepped into a trap, and she couldn't get out. She bled badly, too much. Did you speak to her, Flip asked, before she died? Yes. And what did she say, Nimble asked. Look here, Ereth sputtered. I never had to do this before. Never wanted to. And spread peanut butter on a pink poodle, he screamed. I don't know what to say. I don't care what you have to say, Tumble barked angrily. Just tell us what she said. All right, Ereth muttered. She said a lot of things. Mostly sentimental slip-slop. No, I didn't mean that. I mean, well, she said you were helpless, that you couldn't take care of yourself. Wanted me to find you and tell you what happened. Asked me to take care of you. It was all, sad, and I suppose I will stay, but only until your father comes home. Understand that? Only till then. That's what she said. Nothing else? Flip asked after a moment. Well, she also said Ereth almost choked on the word, loved you. Nimble stared at Ereth dumbly. Tumble tail between his legs backed away. Flip's eyes filled with tears. Ereth turned away and shuffled into a corner. Hearing nothing from the trio, he looked back over his shoulder. The young foxes were gazing after him as if they could not believe what he had said. Then Flip slowly lifted his head, squeezed his eyes shut, opened his mouth, and let forth an ear-splitting, dismal yowl that saturated the den with its misery. The two other foxes did the same until all three were howling together. Howl after howl, they cried, filling the den with their anguish. On and on they went with such a volume that Ereth, becoming fearful that he would lose his mind, spun about and shouted, "Stop it! Stop it at once!" As if a switch had been flicked, the foxes ceased their cries and just sat and sniffled. Food! Ereth cried in desperation. You have to eat food. The foxes looked at him blankly. He said, you said you haven't eaten all day. That was because Mom. Nimble stopped in mid-sentence. Right, Ereth snapped. She went out to get you some. Now, just tell me, what do you eat? Tumble shrugged. Whatever she brought us. Chipmunks, moles, and voles. Rabbits if she was lucky. Mice, too. They're great appetizers. But then, I'm very particular about what I eat. Ereth grimaced. I hate meat eaters, he said. Well, we love meat, Tumble threw back defiantly. It's what Mom always gave us. Don't you eat anything else? Bugs, Tumble snapped. Oh, green goose cheese, Ereth cried with disgust. How about some decent food like vegetables? Nimble wrinkled her nose. Only if we have to, berries and stuff. No offense, but we like meat a whole lot better. In fact, Tumble said, we hate vegetables. Yeah, Flip agreed, they're really nasty. Ereth studied the faces of the young foxes. They were looking at him as if he knew what to do, as if he had the answers. Do you do any hunting for yourself, he asked. I caught a grasshopper once, Flip said with pride. It was crunchy. Ereth almost threw up. Did your mother hide any food, he asked. Foxes do that, you know. They do, Nimble said. She turned to her brothers with a questioning look. They seemed equally surprised. Of course they do, Ereth snarled. Everybody knows that. She probably has another den, too. Or more. A just-in-case den. Am I right? Oh, that, Nimble replied. Sure. It's down the bluff a bit, not too far from here. Would there be any food there? Nimble shrugged. Mom only told us what we needed to know. Can you find it? The foxes exchanged glances again. Yes, I suppose, maybe. Then why the mangy muskrat mites, if you were so hungry, didn't you go to look there for food? There was a moment of embarrassed silence. I guess we didn't think of it, Flip offered after a moment. We were waiting for Mom. Tumble said belligerently, the way she told us to. And we always do what she tells us, Nimble explained more softly. Anyway, the white stuff came, Flip added. Snow, Nimble reminded him. Ereth said, I suppose we'd better check that place. Now you, Nimble, take the lead. You seem to know where the place is. Then Tumble, Flip, you follow. I'll come behind. Come on, let's hit it. For a moment, the foxes just looked at him. It was Flip who said, Mr. Doormat, are you going to be our mother from now on? Look here, you simple smear of wallaby wax, Ereth roared. The name is Ereth, not Doormat. Secondly, I am not your mother. I can't be a mother. I don't want to be a mother. I'm only taking care of you until... Ereth stopped. Until what? Tumble prompted quickly. Until your father gets back, which better be as fast as bees buzzing buttercups. Do you understand? The fox stared at him. Exasperated, Ereth asked, do you have any idea where he is? He happens to be doing his business, Tumble returned hotly. He's got a lot of it. Sorry I ask, Ereth returned in the same tone. Just hop it to the other place. The three foxes, energized by Ereth's yelling, tumbled out of the den. The worried porcupine followed, close enough to hear Tumble whisper to the other, wow, he's a nasty one, isn't he? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to stop here for the day. Do you think Ereth's going to make a good mom? Not so much, huh? We'll find out tomorrow. Bye.